everyone, welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast, where we're using this as a platform to allow association and nonprofit leaders to mastermind with each other. So today I have a very special guest here with me. Welcome, Melissa. We have Melissa Shahin here from the Association of Faculty of Medicine Canada, AFMC, here with us. So you have been with AFMC forever. And this is a bit unusual because people generally jump from one role to another. And you also have this very special title that most nonprofit organizations that we work with don't have, which is Chief Strategy Officer. Tell us a little bit about your background and all this related to your title.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. First of all, Sherry, I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you and speak with your audience. So my role as Chief Strategy Officer for AFMC is certainly unique in our space. It is something that when we had undertaken a restructuring with our new president and CEO about a year and a half ago, we really wanted to carve out space for me, given my experience within the association, to have a lot more time to look at that 50,000 foot level, really look at the business that we're doing and making sure that that is on track, effective, and aligned with our strategic planning. So starting way back 16 years ago, that was one of my first roles in the nonprofit industry was with the Association of Faculties of Medicine, and I was attracted to it because of the work that the association does at the national level in projects in health education and in Indigenous health in particular, which was a passion of mine in continuing to contribute towards. So I was starting off as a project associate in the association, working on some of these national collaborations between our medical schools in Canada. And from there, I progressed over a series of different roles, elevating into more management roles, more operational and association management positions. I became the operations director, essentially, covering off all areas of communications, government relations, IT, finance, HR, all of our facilities management. So I've covered the gamut across the association. And then I've had the privilege of working closely with our board of directors over the last 8 or 9 years in advising them not only on our finance and risk management activities, but also as a key advisor in a lot of the national undertakings that we have. So a lot of projects underway, and given my experience, I've always had an opportunity to have a voice at that table, which is really wonderful. So in my current role, what I do is I not only help craft our strategic plan, work with the board on what their vision is, communicating that into a longer term plan, but I also take that and operationalize it with our team. So I work closely with our senior leaders across the association, work with them and their teams on what type of initiatives need to be put into place to actually execute on those priorities of our board. And beyond that, working with our association in an area that I don't think we've done before, but actually looking at our accountability under that strategic plan. So making sure that we have metrics, indicators, and we're linking our initiatives to what type of impact we're having. So that's something new for us that I'm able to spend some time on, which is really wonderful. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm doing right now.
Well, this is for sure 50,000 feet up, and it's such an amazing opportunity because I think it's almost a luxury to have this particular role in any nonprofit organization. More often than not, like we talked about before our interview started, is that we see a lot of organizations out there having issues, even juggling the day-to-day, and having issues funding their own programs, and it's amazing to see that AFMC is able to create this role, and I really appreciate what the way that you describe tying it to KPI, key performance indicator, owning the accountability, measuring the impact. So can you give me, if you don't mind me asking, give me a specific example that tied to your strategic plan and what you have done with your confidentiality agreement and all that, whatever that you can share with us. That would be awesome. Because with our clientele, I see that the board may have an idea to craft an amazing strategic plan, and when it comes down to execution, it's completely different. So there is no link between the two. So I'm really interested in just learning that piece, translating that strategic goal to real action?
Yeah, so it can certainly be complex, and I've seen it done in a lot of different ways across associations, all really wonderful ways. There are some methodologies for impact assessment. What I find works really well, though, is to have a high-level scorecard of what kind of indicators help you know that you're on track with your targets within your strategic plan. So let's say a really simple indicator for us to talk about today would be one of AFMC's main advocacy goals. It's around improved or increased health research funding from the federal government and from entities across Canada. And this is something that we have at a high level on our scorecard, something that we talk about with our board regularly. How is that progressing year over year in terms of contributions to our medical schools? And we've set, baselines at the beginning of our strategic plan. Where was this at when we started? And year over year, we look at the growth of that. Now, I'm not saying that everything that we do leads directly into that impact or is the only thing that leads into it, but certainly we are a contributing force towards it, given our advocacy, given the success and innovations of our medical school that contribute to more investment. And then, of course, our geopolitical situation that really warrants an important investment in this area. So when you factor in all of these different things and you start to look at the trend year over year, you see, hopefully, you see your growth in that space, you see yourself you see that target being hit. If in your overall scorecard that we use at AFMC, you're seeing a trend that you're not wanting to, so maybe you're seeing a decrease, then that's a really good warning sign that maybe further intervention is needed. And so in that context, we might ramp up our advocacy. We might call some key meetings with government officials to talk about the importance of this, the economic impact of health research, and the contribution that makes to bedside care for Canadians. So those are interventions we can take if we are monitoring in that way. I hope that's a good example for you.
Oh, it's a great example. I think more often than not, what I see is that people set up strategic plan in words. And there's no measuring stick. There's no hey, what indicator actually ties to that strategic initiative? So what you are sharing is something that's really interesting. Having that, being able to, having that number. I mean, I love numbers because I'm an accountant, but at the same time, if you don't have a objective measurement and rather it is some description, it is hard to be on the same page with everybody, with the team, let alone and then plus the board as well, because the board is also busy with their own lives, their own business, and then having that number just makes it so much easier.
It really does. In fact, I would share with you too, one of the new things that we're doing this year is we've actually taken a select number of our indicators to identify as things that would be interesting for the general public to see. So we are actually transforming that into something new in our annual report this year to be able to share some of that accountability more publicly. So we have indicators on organizational performance. We share our targets, we share where we started, and we share where we are today. And we plan to do that over the life of our strategic plan and hopefully beyond that. But we also share what we care about monitoring within our sector. So in this case, academic medicine sector, as I mentioned, health research, we talk about the quality of programs and student sentiments within our medical schools. We talk about the different areas of curriculum that we want to integrate: anti-racism, cultural safety, AI, these types of innovations. These are things that in our public indicators, you'll see that we're monitoring so that we can intervene as needed. It's one of the unique things about our association that we have this close collegiate of the medical schools, and it's a small enough number to fit in one room, so we can have influence at that national level.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. Like using, like, for example, what you just shared, you're monitoring all these numbers, including research paper, all these trends. How do you tie all these numbers or tracking into actions that's related to the strategic plan? Like, for example, earlier you mentioned the strategic plan with the funding, government funding available to the sector for research. So to what extent that you would be able to influence that? Like, how do you tie, or maybe simply, what action are you doing right now, or how do you measure the success when, like, it may be increasing by 10 million or it's increasing by 100 million? So how do you tie all your effort to those numbers?
Yeah, that's where it gets really tricky, right? There are so many different factors that lead into those types of things. And really with that type of indicator, we're looking at pretty high level instances of change that we might want to look, if a trend is trending downward or trending upward, we know we're doing well. But in terms of our specific influence, we actually take a second step beyond our scorecarding that I've talked about. We set out an operational or action plan, as we call it, within our space. So we look at all of our different strategic priorities that we've set, and with our teams, we've identified different initiatives that will actually help directly influence that. So in the case of health research funding, as I mentioned, some of our advocacy efforts and support for trainees across the country, these are initiatives that we have in our action plan with a lead person or two within our association managing those initiatives, making sure that we are making progress against them. And you can kind of consider these as some indicators, if they are successful, if they are contributing, as leading towards those bigger priorities, which include, increased funding overall from government, which is actually something we cannot directly control. That's out of our influence. It's not our pocketbook, it's government. But it is influenced by the work that we do and the ability to demonstrate the importance of that. So we have our implementation plans, we have our scorecarding. Those are all really important factors in actually executing a strategic plan effectively.
Awesome, like breath of fresh air, because this is what, in the perfect world, how associations should be managed, right? Like you go from the strategic plan to the mandate and also influencing all the initiative that the association is doing. But more often than not, we're all buried in our day-to-day answering member questions and all doing all these things, and we forgot about the bigger picture, why we exist to begin with. So this is really awesome. So I heard that you're also almost done your new education.
Yes, in fact, just finished this
congrats.
spring. Thank you so much. I've been working for the last 2.5 years on my EMBA in social enterprise leadership. Just graduated from the University of Fredericton.
Wow, congrats.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a long haul for sure. It's something that I've done off the side of my desk. You can imagine having a full-time job. And in a leadership role with an association, it's quite demanding. I also have 2 children who are 9 and 12.
Oh, same age as mine.
Oh, great. Okay, so you know exactly how much that is demanding of your time. And then to fit in about probably 20 to 30 hours of additional professional development on a weekly basis over at sustained 2.5 years has been quite a track.
I know, and it's also very unique what you are doing, like what you did. So, I mean, I just wrapped up this year. I just wrapped up my Certified Association Executive Designation.
Amazing.
Yes, and it took me a year and a half. Like I took a long break, probably a year break. I could have done it a year ago, and I just didn't do it because of the time constraint and really setting foot down to commit to it. Now, this program that you've just finished is related to social enterprise. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so social enterprise is a really interesting area of work that I think is probably still new to some within the Canadian atmosphere, but it's been around for quite some time, certainly a couple of decades, certainly advancing in different areas of the world, the UK, South Korea, amazing leaders and exemplars in social enterprise and capitalizing on the nonprofit industry as a way to help offset some of the burden of finance, the financial burden on public governments and public institutions. So one of the ways that nonprofits can actually help support our economy and contribute to our communities is through developing social enterprises. And now, if you think about it, a social enterprise is almost like a for-profit business. It's something that generates revenue, and the intent is to generate revenue. It's through community services and things that add value from a social perspective, but also bring in those dollars. That in a social enterprise, what is unique about it versus a for-profit industry is it actually is redirected back into mission-focused work. So it's either reinvested back into that social enterprise or it's contributing towards, in the case of AFMC, our charitable missions, so our work in academics and in health. And it's something that it's a real passion for me. So I'm excited about the work that we've done at AFMC. I'm also excited about the integration into a broader community, which I think is thriving in Ottawa in particular in this space, and looking to support the community in that.
Wow, that's awesome. Give me some example that AFMC is currently doing. At Otis, we have a mission to help nonprofit organizations to build an additional $50 million revenue in different forms. And the main reason is really because I've seen so much struggle with every single organizations out there. This funding cycle, like grant cycle, global affairs gives you 12% to cover your operational costs, and then what's next? Like, who's covering the rest of the stuff? So I really feel like we all should take a little bit of ownership. It's just a little girl in me because years ago my dad told me that, I bought a place, a condo. It was my first place that I own. And I went to Hong Kong. And in Chinese culture, they often ask the family to fund the initial deposit or something. The parents would generally help. I wasn't asking for anything because I have enough money as it's a small condo and start a home, and I didn't need any help. But I went home and my dad knew that I got my first place, and the first thing that he said to me was, I don't have any money for you. And I was just like, I didn't even ask for it. And from that moment on, I was just like, you know what? I just gotta find all my money. I don't need to rely on anybody. And I feel the same way with all nonprofit out there. And I was just speaking to someone that I know really well, a former client of ours, and they're struggling with their finances. It just hurts. Like, I wanted them to be able, all of us nonprofit, can stand up for themselves and like, hey, screw you, government. If you're not giving me money, I'm going to find my money. Yeah. Well, but that's my little spiel. So what does sorry on sidetracking, but what does AFMC do to generate that revenue?
So we are definitely not insulated from that issue. I think if I look at the history of AFMC, a decade ago, I would say we had a steep government reliance. We had a lot of different programs that were grant funded, and beyond that, we had our membership fees to sustain us. Around that time, working with our board, we identified a key program that we wanted to bring forward, which is a social enterprise in itself. It's a student portal service. So it's a service for medical students, both in Canada and abroad. And we work to connect them into visiting electives within the medical education system, so within programs in Canada. And all of the revenues that come from this go into developing and enhancing that service first and foremost, so that it's as effective as possible and value add for the learners themselves. But then secondly, if there is any surplus from that, which we have seen starting to enjoy as an association, that we are able to translate that back into supporting our direct mission, so advancing additional initiatives in the association that might not have funding attached to it, or where we cannot secure other types of funding. This gives us the flexibility to do that type of work. And I would say today, and this will be something that you'll see in our public-facing indicators under our strategic scorecard as well, our government funding reliance is less than 20% for sure, which is very significant. In fact, I think it's dropped even more steeply than that in the last past year in particular, as we look at being more self-sustaining in the long run. In the long-term goals for us, I'd love to see us also be able to move away from our reliance on membership dues as well, and really, as many other nonprofits out there, look for something that's more self-sustaining. And that path forward is social enterprise.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I'm just going to ask these questions because I also get I get asked these questions like, we're a small organization, we only have a handful of employees. I know I can do a daycare or not daycare, a summer camp idea. I know I can do that, but I'm already so cash strapped. I'm already so resources strapped. Like I'm the only person running almost everything. How do I even find the time to start the step one? You can get the board to buy in. The board, they are volunteers, they're not involved in operations, so ultimately it's me and my team, and the team is just already so strapped.
Yeah, that's really tricky, especially when you're feeling so stuck in that exact situation. My first gut feeling there is to really come back to that strategic plan and look at all the work you're doing. Is it aligned? Is it value add for your association and the vision that you're trying to achieve? And if it isn't, start to remove those aspects that aren't, so that you are absolutely mission focused and mission driven, and you're cutting out some of the things that you could then redirect that resource and that time towards new business development and new social enterprise opportunities, or even new grant funding opportunities. You know, I think that we do have to recognize that we can't continue to run at 100 or 120% capacity, as many of us do in this industry, but that we need to scale that back and build time for thought leadership and build time for business development work. So in a perfect world, you know, having each of your membership, your staff membership, having about 20% of their day aside for not only business planning, but contingencies, things come up. You want to build that time so that we can make space for that type of work to occur. And if that's something that seems unachievable right now, then baby steps, of course. But it starts again with that strategic planning and really narrowing down your focus. And having very concrete conversations, as we have with our board, about what are, you know, absolutely essentials to have from those plans. What are the nice to have, so that if something does come up that's urgent and an issue, we know where we can cut back and redirect our resources. So I think those are really good places to start in that space, and then also to think about partnerships. There's a lot of great resourcing out there from provincial governments right now, in particular. Some in the federal as well, but having some government partnerships that help you start off in new business development. There are tons of resources available to you to integrate some of the skills and experience that you need on your team to do that type of work. Looking at private industry as another partner there, so key in that space. They're very willing partners too, especially when, you know, it gives them the opportunity to contribute back into more social value as well.
So looking back, when AFMC first started on this student portal idea, obviously it didn't start overnight, and it takes a few years to ramp up. Tell us a little bit about that experience as well, so that our audience can learn like the psychological or the workload as well, because I'm sure it's not a smooth sail.
It's not, for sure. It's not. Social enterprise isn't without risk. And I would say during the pandemic, we experienced the worst kind of things that could happen. Complete shutdown, not able to put any learners into positions because it was a public health safety issue, right? So we had to completely stop operations.
Oh, no.
That could certainly floor you. I was really, really proud of our board in their commitment to this endeavor and supporting not only the staff who work within it, but also the community, and having this tool available to them. They paused those operations, looked into some contingency funding to support it over that period of stoppage, and utilized that time to actually revamp the program. So we looked at all the infrastructure that we had, which at the time was proprietary and self-developed, and we looked at making that a little bit more streamlined, more of an off-the-shelf solution with an external partner that actually brought us out ahead. We were able to drop the overheads from that program by probably about 40%, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Made that a much more effective tool, more cost effective for us to manage and to be able to utilize more of the revenues coming in towards some of our mission work instead.
That's awesome. So when you talk about cutting down 40% off your operating cost of the program, I would imagine there would be some headcounts in there.
Yeah, well, actually, I think the technology in this space was costing us so much as a proprietary solution that a lot of the cost to savings we experienced was on that line. We were able to retain most of our headcount in that space and only reduce through natural attrition instead. So that was, one of our values as well, is to try to sustain people through troublesome times. The pandemic was that time for us. So it was our commitment to keep our staff. And to work on other solutions, and having those external partnerships absolutely helped in that.
I should not have faced it with like the head count, but what I wanted to bring up is the change, because you have you initiate this program, and from proprietary to like off-the-shelf type of situation, there are lots of changes throughout the whole process. And I'm a business owner, I work with team members as well, and change management is hard. So how did AFMC handle that change and managing the staff expectation? And sometimes, inevitably, there will be noises that would say, hey, like, I don't want to change. Where, like, one of our clients is currently giving our team a hard time, which happens because we want the most efficient way, and the existing staff sometimes may not want the change. We are often brought in to bring changes too, right? So how do you handle that side of HR issue that you had before? Maybe not issue, like some of the challenges.
Yeah, it's tricky. I can think of so many different situations where you're having to manage change, and change should always be, or change management should always be a part of that picture. Yeah. I think for us at AFMC, what has been successful is open communication, transparent decision making, and communicating to those involved, in particular staff, why a change is happening, not just what change is happening, and how that change is a value add for them, and how it aligns with the work that we're trying to achieve. When they get behind the why, it's a lot easier to get them moving forward with the what.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, throughout your career, I don't want to keep you for too long, and I want to ask a couple more questions. Sure. And so throughout your career, what is your biggest setback, and how do you overcome that setback?
That is interesting. I think probably one of the biggest things I would say is jumping into situations where you really don't know what you're supposed to do, what is the right, there's no manual for the pandemic, for example, and how to handle the issues that came up during it. There's no one in the back of your mind going, okay, this is what you do next. So I think probably the biggest challenge has been being in many of those situations where you just don't know what the next step is. And for me, the way that I handled that is openly. Being aware of what I did or didn't know, being very transparent about that, and then trying anyway. So putting out there what I thought my ideas were, checking those against other people's ideas, and really coming to a place where even though we don't know if it's the right way forward, we have a good sense of what came to us or how we gathered our path forward. And I think that's proven to be really successful for me, and something that I will always continue to take forward with me is that faith that even when you don't know what to do, you can find a way forward, and you can be positive about that.
You sound really positive, which is awesome. I am going to leave with the last question. I think this is a perfect question for someone who just completed a degree, as well as running at the organization, being the chief strategy officer, and then also having 2 young kids. So how do you balance that? As you mentioned earlier, the 120%, running at 120% all the time, and all these work while maintaining your mental health?
Oh, that is certainly a challenge. I think in our association, we've been very committed to well-being. So we've built in ways to be more flexible and recognize the modern lives that we live need to move away from some of those traditional models of that 9 to 5 in-office behavior.
Yes.
So moving our association towards a remote work environment where we promote and encourage people to build their day around their home life schedule. We have people who need to walk their kids to school. That's absolutely fine. You should be able to do that and be encouraged to do it, and then come back and get moving forward with your work. I think that lends itself more to being able to balance both. And then from a mental health perspective, I think being aware that it's not your responsibility to do everything. You are part of a team and you can lift each other up. And there are going to be times when we can't achieve all the things we want. And that's okay. That's why we build in a contingency so that we can say, yep, can't do that today. More important things today. And be able to still move forward positively.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today. And that has been very helpful, particularly with your insight being a strategist for the board as well, being that bridge between the board strategy, the vision, and tying it to the operation. I think is very valuable. Setting those numbers up and looking at the numbers and tying it to the impact and the activities within the organization is a very great lesson. And then also the social enterprise piece, and which align with our Otis mission very well. So congrats on all these.
Thank you so much, Sherry, and I will definitely be talking to you in the future about Otis's opportunities, because I think there's a lot of synergy for both of us.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Yes, thank you.
As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no-obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.